I always think of Larry H. Parker, and I will fight for you. And it sounds great, the rallying cry of someone on your side that's going to go to battle. And I think of tough negotiators. You know how many agents I've heard when you ask them, like, what are you really good at? Oh, I'm a tough negotiator. You go, okay, what does a tough negotiator mean? Does that mean that you just say no, my way or the highway? Isn't the idea of negotiation to move the process along to get both parties to agree to something that gets them both what they want? And I'm not talking about, oh, yay, everybody wins, but tough, just tough. I don't fold, I don't bend, I don't give. Now, you got to be smart enough to be able to break down what your client is trying to achieve. There's one part of we can't take less than this amount of money. It's not really necessarily true. There's other ways to build profit for your client into the sale of a house that is separate from what just the sales price is on a piece of paper. A real negotiator is going to dissect what that offer is, figure out the most important goals for the seller, and what we can get the buyer to do on their side to meet the seller's goal. Same is true when you're negotiating on behalf of a buyer. You have to figure out what the absolute ride or die things that the seller needs to have happen and what the buyer, maybe there's some things that you're asking for that aren't that important to the transaction or to the buyer that you can negotiate and give the seller more of what they want when you still get the main things the buyer wants, in which case both parties, the buyer and seller, are getting what they asked for. That's not tough negotiating. That is called cunning. That is called good negotiation, goal-oriented negotiation, and looking out for your clients. Tough negotiations, when people say it, should be turned around to, gee, negotiating is tough. It requires a lot of work and practice and intelligence. So keep that in mind when you hire somebody to negotiate on your behalf. A fighter who just wants to fight and say no and make things difficult for everybody isn't going to get you the best results. You need to look for somebody who understands how to get to the root of what the main motivators are for each party they're negotiating on behalf of and against, and be able to leverage and exploit those things in order to get their own client the best results that match the outcome they actually want. There's more than one way to skin a cat.